It's just after lunchtime. This is All Angles here on eNCA. Good afternoon. I'm Masakhoratlacha. It is that time of the day when we give you an update on how far some of the stories we've been following for you on channel today have advanced. Here's your lunchtime update. Our reporters are out and about bringing you the latest on today's top stories. I am joined by Bafedile Moerane in Springs, Pule Letshwiti-Jones is in Sandton in Johannesburg, and Aviwe Mtila is in Sunnyside. All right, let's start with you, Bafedile. Of course, miners at the Gold One mine in Springs are vowing to continue with their protest until their demands are met. They want to be, they want the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union recognized as the majority union at the mine. What's the latest? We saw Joseph Mathunjwa speaking.
Well, at this point in time, AMCU President Joseph Mathunjwa is addressing the frustrated workers, but the advice that he is giving to them, it is to go back to work. He's saying to them that they should not give the employer a reason to fire them, and also having to say that they should allow the proper processes. They should allow the proper processes to continue. So they are saying that the close shop agreement is really not working for the workers. The close shop agreement speaks to a situation whereby the employer allows the majority union to be the only one that's recognized in a company. So we will hear from the workers as to whether they are agreeing with what Joseph Mathunjwa is saying to them. But according to what I see and view or hear as he's addressing them, they definitely agree with him to say that they should allow the processes to unfold. Following the petition that was signed yesterday to this morning by the workers, it will be part of the documents that will be submitted before the CCMA and also the mine management. On the other hand, we are expecting to hear comment from the National Union of Mine Workers, which at this point in time I understand it is still in engagement with the mine management. So we'll hear from them as to when workers are expected back at work, because they are indicating that operations, as it is halted, it is really crippling them in terms of the production and income. So Joseph Mathunjwa earlier on has said to them that they should go back to work, but however we'll hear from the workers as to whether they are agreeing to this call. Let us listen to Mathunjwa as he was addressing the workers.
But abanye foreign investors, I used to call them foreign thieves. Yeah? All these mines, like South Africa, all these businesses, like South Africa, but are my investors. They are not investors. They are foreign thieves.
All right, let's come to you, Pule. Of course, you are covering an operation, a crime operation by police in Johannesburg. We understand that officers destroyed drugs worth about 800 million rand that were seized during operations last week. For instance, police in KZN made 2 major drug busts with a collective street value of 150 million rand. It seems smuggling of drugs have become a problem once again in South Africa. It's not going away.
Definitely, it's quite a big concern, Masejo. In fact, what we were told is that some of the drugs that are actually caught or intercepted by law enforcement at the harbours are en route going to other countries as well. And therefore, the police say they are now working with the intelligence to ensure that they curb such crimes as well. But what we can also tell you is that this is the third of its kind where drugs are being destructed. What we understand is that there was also a destruction of drugs that took place to the tune of worth 170 million just recently in Cape Town as well. These drugs include heroin, mandrax, and of course others as well, which police have deemed as very dangerous to the public. This time around, SAPS is working with the anti-drug unit to try and ensure that they put an end to the spike of some of these drugs that they've intercepted or busted on the roads of South Africa and at the entry ports of the country as well. What we do understand is that the police have said that the drugs which were of course busted and the people who were busted in having to be in possession of drugs but not arrested in KZN, that matter is still being in court. So what will happen is that once police have a clearance from the court, then they will then destroy the drugs which they caught in KZN as well. But there haven't been any arrests in relation to that incident that took place in KZN. But of course, also in a separate matter, Maseko, what I can tell you is that the SAPS has issued a warning in terms of the public, which is not disclosing such information, which of course would help them pertaining to the investigations, saying and urging that members of the public should come forward once they notice anything dodgy or they know of these drug operations taking place in some of our areas and communities nationwide.
All right, let's come to you, Aviwe. You're, of course, covering the Commission of Inquiry into the Marshalltown building fire, in which about 70 people passed away then. Who has testified so far and what have they said?
Well, the acting chief of emergency services in Johannesburg, Rapulana Monacheng, took to the stand and just giving glaring accounts and glaring evidence of how the Usindiso building itself was a health hazard. In fact, it was a disaster waiting to happen just from the entrance itself. One door that could be used for entrance in and out of the building. You can imagine the complications of the situation then when they are engulfed in fire. Also, the emergency door itself was locked. In fact, chained, which is not supposed to happen. Maseko, almost everything and any room inside there was used as a room. For example, if you are to look at the emergency exits, the emergency stairways themselves were turned into living rooms, where obviously that's supposed to be free so that people can be able to evacuate, but those were turned into living rooms. If you are to look at the spaces provided that are supposed to be one room, we're told how they were broken down into many rooms. It was difficult to even maneuver in and out, where you'd make your way inside and be met by a bed, for example. And a lot of these broken down places would use wood, of course, which is quite highly flammable. Just glaring and shocking evidence provided here by the acting chief of emergencies, just suggesting even how bathrooms were turned into living rooms, in fact turned into spaza shops, and how there was electrical wiring just all around the building itself. There were no fire extinguishers, Maseko. And if you are to ask what was happening on the ground floor, you'll find out that there were shacks there on the ground floor that housed at least 200 people. Just some of the evidence that we've heard on day one from the first witness. In fact, I want you to take a listen to the acting chief of emergency services as he gave testimony here.
There will be evidence that ground floor, by way of example, would have had shack dwellings accommodating over 200 people. Is that consistent with your observations?
Commissioner, exactly, it's consistent with observations. Because of when you look at the floor meterage of that size, I'll easily count 70 meters by 70 meters in how broad the floor, how big the floor was. And I said earlier on, Commissioner, this is the floor, ground floor. When you use the eastern door, you'll gain access to this floor. But that door to this floor was blocked off.
It was blocked off, you mean it was locked?
It was locked, correctly. And as a matter of fact, it was used during firefighting, but after a heavy braking exercise by the firefighters. They had to break entrance through that door to be able to fight the fire in this floor.
It was forcibly opened?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, that was your eNCA lunchtime update from all angles with reporters Aviwe, Mtila, Pule, Letshwiti-Jones and Bafedile Moerane. Thank you, team. Let's leave it there for now.